Shooting is also putting a spotlight on 4chan, the anonymous chat site website created in 2003.
So this was originally created for users to talk about video games and anime, but it has evolved over time into a forum for everything from the paranormal to politics. It has become a home for conspiracy theories. Over the last 20 years, it's grown to become one of the world's most active forums with more than 4 billion total posts. Now, 4chan is among the sites and apps New York's Attorney General is investigating after the Buffalo supermarket attack. In a manifesto authorities believe the alleged gunman wrote, he reportedly credits 4chan for his radicalization and adoption of the replacement theory.
Joining Morning Rush for a closer look at the influence of sites like 4chan is the lead author of Media Manipulation and Disinformation Online, Alice Marwick. Alice is an associate professor at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Thank you so much for joining us today. If 4chan is so obscure, why is it so disproportionately influential, as you wrote in your study?
So 4chan is an anonymous message board, and unlike most of the social media sites that we use, it has little or no moderation. So you can post things there that you couldn't put on Facebook. So pornography, gore, racist speech, shocking imagery. It's also a very intense community. It has its own slang and its own jokes, which makes it a crucible of internet culture, both good and bad. If you remember from like 10, 15 years ago, lolcats, the pictures of cats with like funny sayings on them, that comes out of 4chan. 4chan is always trying to reach out and influence other parts of the internet, and it's really good at mobilizing its users to do things. QAnon began on 4chan, for example, and it's created spaces where racism can thrive and made it possible for white supremacists to push racist propaganda across the internet.
Who owns 4chan? Is there any interest in moderating the content on the platform?
There's not a lot of interest in moderating the content on the platform because that's sort of what drives people to it. It's privately owned, and the proprietor hasn't even put out a statement about the Buffalo shooting. In general, internet sites in the U.S. are protected by something called Section 230, which means they're not liable for the content that their users post. And if none of the other racist events or mass shootings have changed things on 4chan, I very much doubt that this one will.
So I mentioned that authorities believe that this alleged shooter in the Buffalo, New York deadly mass shooting used this and credited it for the radicalization in his ideology. How difficult is it then when someone doesn't outright say, this is where I got that information from, since it is anonymous, like you mentioned, how difficult is it then to tie back to a person, any post?
Well, in this case, the Buffalo shooter actually did reference 4chan in his manifesto and his diaries. So it's pretty easy to make the link there. But in general, it's very hard to determine if someone posted something on the site. There's no information that identifies you. People have spent a lot of time and effort trying to figure out who's behind the QAnon conspiracy theory, for example. And it's really hard to do that because unlike sites like Facebook, nobody uses a real name or a picture of themselves.
So freedom of speech, obviously a big foundation of this country. Several opinion pieces, though, from the likes of the New York Times and The Independent in the UK question why that right is extended to a site that promotes hate and violence. What are your thoughts on that? Where does this issue stand with sites that promote fringe, or at least provide a haven for fringe views?
I think that's one of the central questions of how we govern technology today. Where do we have the balance between people being able to talk about things and speak their mind and people purposefully inculcating hateful ideas that have direct impacts on the lives of people who are often marginalized or vulnerable? It's really tricky. Just because you have the right to free speech, for the government can't regulate what you say, that doesn't mean that your speech is free from consequence or that a private company is obligated to let you say those things. And I think that what is difficult about 4chan is that they specifically are trying to convert people to their ideas. They're really trying to mainstream these ideas. And they spend a lot of time coming up with ways that they can spread these ideas to a larger population. So it's not just about people going onto the site or going onto 4chan. It's about the larger impact that this site has.
So you mentioned the owner of 4chan has not said anything or released any statements about what happened in Buffalo, New York. What are the chances then, do you think, that this incident in Buffalo will change the operations of 4chan in any significant way?
I would be very surprised. The precedent that we do have is a very similar site called 8chan. After the El Paso shooting, a number of internet infrastructure sites that sort of made it possible for 8chan to stay up, they stopped supporting the site. And so as a result, 8chan is much harder to access now because it goes down all the time. So there's a possibility that we might see other sites or other providers saying we're not going to support this anymore. But unfortunately, we now have some infrastructure providers who are like, we support free speech, we don't support censorship. So it remains to be seen what will happen. But this is not the first time that 4chan has come under scrutiny for, harboring these types of ideas. And unfortunately, I don't think it'll be the last.
And, it results in a horrific tragedy that one community is dealing with right now. Alice Marwick, Associate Professor at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.